Hi everybody, my name is Loyal Wooldridge and I'm the BC NDP candidate running in the riding of Kelowna Centre, and this is Loyal's Community Quickcast, where in 15 minutes or less we bring you some of Kelowna's biggest issues and solutions to overcome them. Today's a really exciting one because we're talking about the economy and we're talking about supporting business right here in Kelowna, and I'm joined with James Seabrook, who is the CEO and founder of Vitalis, who's gone through quite a journey since you graduated from UBCO and came into this role. So maybe you can tell folks a little bit about your background and what is Vitalis.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Loyal. As mentioned, I'm James Seabrook, and I am a 2011 graduate from UBC Okanagan Engineering Program. And in 2014, we started conceptualizing Vitalis. So we're coming up on 10 years of business in Kelowna with lots of changes. And we've now focused primarily on decarbonization solutions and thermal energy management, all built here in BC using clean technology.
So what does that mean to the layman person? What does decarbonization and clean energy mean to folks?
Yeah, so about 85% of the energy that we consume in our daily lives is for comfort, heating, and cooling. So when you look at your own personal carbon intensity or the carbon intensity of a municipality or a campus, a lot of that comes from heating space. And Vitalis is now building industrial heat pumps that give those large systems opportunities to switch fuel from a carbon-based fuel like methane gas, known as natural gas, or diesel, to other options of electrified energy, which can come from solar, wind, geothermal power, things like that, and deliver clean heat to where people need it.
So we know that buildings are number one emitter of GHG, second to transportation. So a solution like this is really working to address those large format buildings, like you've mentioned, like civic buildings with the city or large multifamily buildings, that kind of thing?
Exactly, yeah. Or even larger when we talk about district energy systems, where we have the benefit of sharing energy between things that are in cooling mode, like an ice rink, is rejecting a lot of heat, and that could be absorbed and put into a hospital to offset the amount of energy they're using to heat the space. So our kind of big project announcement that was a couple months ago is that we're building an air source heat pump for UBC Okanagan. And the impact of that project is that we're going to be able to cover 98% of the historical heating load of the campus using only electricity, and our CO2 heat pump to deliver thermal energy to campus about 400% more efficient than a gas system would be, and while eliminating 900 tons of CO2 emissions annually.
That's fantastic. And we often hear that heat pumps aren't going to be able to keep pace, but quite clearly you've come up with a solution that is contrary to that statement.
Exactly. Yeah, it's exciting, and it leads to a lot of things. I mean, the manufacturing industry in Kelowna, where we're building it, the jobs that we can facilitate by having manufacturing here, and the technology and IP that's developed in BC to foster continuous growth of the sector.
Totally. I think what can't be underscored enough is that visions like Vitalis and yours is actually producing more good paying jobs, because we often hear that Kelowna is too expensive for people to work or to live, and young people leave when they graduate UBCO. But it's really great to see startups like yours that have now grown to such a large size to be able to employ people post-university. We spoke to some students a couple of weeks ago, and so I think this really plays to that same sentiment, that there are solutions out there, but we have to support our local entrepreneurs, because we are the entrepreneur capital of Canada. Can we swing in a little bit about the workforce? I want to talk more about your innovations, but can you just shed some light on what is the workforce looking like for you here? Are you recruiting from our universities or colleges, and where you see a vision of where we could evolve?
Absolutely. We have a very diverse workforce because we're vertically integrated. So we have entry-level labor positions, engineering positions, obviously standard and mid, finance, and then we also have service. And Yeah, we get a lot of applicants from UBCO. We've hired a lot of engineers from UBCO. We hire tradespeople from Okanagan College. And the industry will require an updated skill set from colleges and engineers to understand and implement new technology in the future. And we're very lucky and fortunate to have those resources here in Kelowna to feed our workforce. That being said, you mentioned people do move away. We do import quite a bit of labor as well from other parts of the country and internationally as well.
Right. So there are opportunities here, but the skill sets being taught kind of need more, there needs to be enhanced skill sets, would you say? Or why are you still having to recruit out of the city?
Partly that it's a new industry, right? We're going through the energy transition. Parts of Europe are much further ahead than North America in adopting these technologies, and therefore they have skill sets of people who understand it or who have the experience and expertise in it.
Got it. Very cool. Now, supporting business, which is something that I'm very passionate about and why I'm running for this role, to collaborate locally and bring that voice to Victoria. One of the pressures that we feel at the City of Kelowna, and we hear it quite often, is we need more housing, we need more density, but we've heard signals that energy is going to be a challenge. Whether that's gas or electricity, we're hearing indications that that could be a challenge to actually supply some of these buildings. So what's your insight on that? How can we still meet our housing targets while managing the demand for energy?
Yeah, it's a great point. Obviously, we've seen lots of headlines recently from both Fortis and BC Hydro. Fortis, on the gas supply side, there being shortage discussions in Kelowna for 2026. BC Hydro doing a call for clean energy, Fortis similarly doing a call for energy on the electrical side to meet increasing demand. I think one of the big things or a big opportunity that we need to start a discussion around is how do we become more efficient with our energy? Right. And that's where district energy systems can play a big part in recovering waste energy from industrial sources or from cooling facilities like packing houses or cooling plants of agriculture, and delivering it to where we need it. BC is very fortunate to have a relatively low carbon grid. Right. And as more clean energy capacity comes online, the benefits of electrification get better and better. And that's the same thing for all grids. So even if a grid is a little carbon intense right now, and the argument is we may as well keep burning gas, well, there's a transition happening. We're seeing it throughout the world. Adoption of solar and other sources is transitioning us towards a low carbon economy, and it's important to be ready for it. Right. And district energy systems give you the ability to be ready for utilizing those sources. So
we're really talking about a transition to clean energy. It's not like turning off the taps completely of one energy source and thinking that the solution is taking off tomorrow, but it's having that transition plan in place so that when we do need it's built into what we've been building out.
Exactly, yeah.
Now, how does district energy, for example, affect a master plan like the north end of Kelowna? Like we're looking at the mill site, and one of the challenges there obviously is around energy. Or we look out by the university, that's another energy suck. So can you explain a little bit more around what does district energy actually do, and how does that distribute to these large sites?
District energy in principle is very much like your gas system or your electrical heating system, but instead of that flowing in, from fuel that you're burning or electrons that you're using to heat a pot of water, you're delivering that heat with either a water system like a hydronic-based heating system or something else. CO2 could be an option. Right. And it allows, again, the sharing. So if you, during the summertime, are running your air conditioner and you had a big outdoor pool, for example, all of that heat from the air conditioner system could be heating that pool instead of running a gas-fired, heater for the pool and then also running your air conditioner with electricity.
Okay, that makes sense. And so there are some folks out there that say, we don't have enough electricity in BC to accommodate heat pumps. Can you shed some light on that? That's some of the pushback that I hear of when we talk about transitioning how we're building buildings and heating them. So can you shed some light scientifically on that argument?
Yeah, it's a pretty in-depth topic, but in simple terms, I guess, if you already have an air conditioner, you do have a heat pump. Right. It just only runs half the year. And putting in a piece of equipment that can do both the heating and cooling load has a very minimal increase to the electrical demand. And so, during winter months, historically in our city, you would see peak gas demand, and in the summertime, you see peak electricity demand.
Right.
And that just kind of equalizes throughout the year.
Got it.
So the benefit of heat pumps and having good thermal sources like either geothermal or a large lake, like Okanagan Lake is their thermal batteries. We can absorb heat very efficiently and ultimately reduce the load. So with a good energy plan, if we reduce the overall load, then we can also reduce the required amount of power coming to the city.
Okay.
And that's a benefit of district systems, is doing it more efficiently.
Fantastic. Now, in terms of infrastructure investments in Kelowna, what would you like to see happen?
I think that it's important to have a core base of manufacturing in the Okanagan. There's a number of great companies here that are growing. Supporting these businesses locally, having access to land at a reasonable price, and speculation around industrial in Kelowna is an issue.
Yeah.
Last year, we saw maybe 4% vacancy, and now we're at 28% vacancy. So the market is adjusting and finding what will work to help keep companies here. That's important. And from, I think, provincial standpoint, having the discussions and mobilizing communities to leverage infrastructure funds to develop clean energy systems is going to be very important, so that we're not left behind with aged assets that ultimately get dumped onto the taxpayers.
I think that's a really crucial point, because again, we're looking at this exponential growth of our city, and there's one thing that I hear about often from folks is our infrastructure keeping pace? And I think it's equally as important, not only is it keeping pace, but is it as current as possible, so it's going to last us 40, 60 years into the future, that we're not building with old technologies.
Absolutely.
So from a business perspective, where do you think there needs to be a focus to continue to A, attract new good paying jobs here, but B, help businesses like Vitalis continue to flourish? You've mentioned obviously industrial space, but where would you like to see government work a little bit differently in order to do that?
That's a great question. I think let's start the conversations, and let's engage the stakeholders who play a role in transitioning to a low carbon economy. And support each other in that. Ultimately, we all benefit from it. So leveraging as much of our local resources as possible is going to be key to accelerating that transition.
Fantastic. That's great. I think Vitalis is such an interesting story, because you started with extraction of cannabis, I think it was.
Yeah.
And now what percent of your business would that be?
Very small.
Now transitioning into this new technology. So yeah. Congratulations. I think that's really exciting. What are you most optimistic about?
I am optimistic about achieving my BHAG, which 10 years ago when we founded Vitalis was to ultimately be able to power the city or facilitate a clean energy system for the city of Kelowna.
Fantastic.
That was low carbon.
Well, I have a little bit more work to do before I leave council then.
Yes, thank you.
Perfect. Anything else you want to say, James, before we close out?
No, thank you for hosting me, and best of luck in your door knocking for the coming months.
Well, thank you. I'm getting my steps in, that's for sure. And thank you for sharing your time. I know you're a busy guy. So that's all our time today. 15 minutes goes by really quickly. Again, this is Loyal's Community Quickcast, where I bring you an update from our community every single week with some really interesting conversations and opportunities about the future of Kelowna. You can find me on all the social channels at Loyal Kelowna, and we will see you next time. Thanks so much for tuning in. Have a great day.